No.
His club that went to Ghana. He had a meeting for that.
He's probably saved like 100 lives by now.
Wait, did you go or are you going?
Already done.
Already went. Got it. That's on me, coach.
Steven's going to Ghana again. Enjoy
Hey,
yourself.
Steven, dude, enjoy.
Are you trying to do like a summer trip?
Oh no.
Like I don't know if they do like summer trips, dude.
Stoogen on 3. 1, 2, 3, Stoogen.
They try to go like once every 2 years ish.
Oh, cool. I'm sure it's expensive.
Stoogen.
They might go again next winter because they're trying to like close out with the community.
Where
So much.
Shoot.
That's dope though.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Is
Is
it
it here or is it like far away?
Yeah.
And engineering.
No.
Come back.
Anything that requires me to go outside right now.
Remember I told you this?
Oh wait, yeah.
Horrible.
Wait.
It's a nightmare. Oh man. We get started soon. Hi America.
Yo, you're not
Who's on?
coming with? You're not coming with?
Drop that name in the
You're
chat.
not coming with?
Also, shout out Piper. Enjoy Cyprus. Hope you're doing good. Hope you have a nice base layer going. A good tan.
You know it's gonna be fun. You
Dude, what is the plot? That looks so bad.
What up, Christian?
We'll start in like 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
Yo, guys.
If you're from the future, fast forward 3 minutes.
Kind of seat at the movies that move in sync with the movie plot.
Oh, the 40 ones?
Yeah,
I would get sick. There's no way.
Fidelia.
Fidelia.
I say we invest in those for this movie.
For friends.
It's $22 a ticket.
Where?
No, but we're trying to get.
West Springfield has
And they're
I'm
heated.
like, what are my goals? I'm like trying to play.
Okay.
I've been to Irish Ireland for like
40 experience.
That isn't bad. That's too long.
I don't know my legs anymore.
No,
Like, I think
they
when we start
I
shooting
didn't.
again, like
So
I'm not
me and
gonna look at
Daniel
anything
went to
else
a
on
movie
the
at 3 p.m. on a Monday.
I don't have my
So
legs
and it's a
like
bad movie.
I don't have a team right
So
now.
believe it or not, we were
pick
the
up like
only people there.
back in the day.
I don't.
That's
I believe
cool.
it. Was it like
College,
the 40
like-
experience? Dude?
No, so
When I
they
turned, like-
turned them off
You
when
need
no
to-
one
you need to
buys them.
Oh.
So we sat
No?
just in regular.
So I'm trying to do
They
club
were
next
heated.
year.
I got lots of
Very
students.
My back felt much better after
I
the
mean,
prep.
I have eligibility, but like
Dude,
no one's gonna pick me up. I'm not gonna.
What do you
I'm not
mean?
available.
Don't pick you up, little guys.
I'm like, I need to get a handle back.
Of course.
Mom, I need to get my
For the years, yeah.
I know how to use them. It's probably go with
Defense
No,
good.
we're
Not
not
like big, you know, guys can love your but I got quick hands. I got good hands. I'll put ball out. I'm active. I can defend guys that are good, and I defend a guy who's
Nate was
like,
so mad at me this morning
Okay, I take that
because
over.
I
Ball
grabbed his
back.
phone
Like,
and I was
like,
like,
unless the guy's like really good.
and then I changed
Grab,
his-
But the guy's not that good. He's just relying on being big.
Oh, it's not my
I had
fault.
teams where, and I had a
No,
team
my
where the
phone
guy
video
was
when I picked it
6'10".
up.
My
Wow.
phone video.
No, I know, but I was saying.
I know.
Skinny.
I was like, oh, my fault. And he goes,
Not wrong.
change the video. And I'm
You,
like,
no, I said you changed
He
the
thought he was
that's not right. That's not true.
I was just like,
He goes,
get big on this guy. And what I would do is I would let him, I would give him the ball the first time, and we would
no,
go
you
bounce
go, you
outside.
changed the
And
video.
the second he'd
Yo,
like
he
spot
does
up from
crazy
outside,
stuff.
I'd be like, not a shooter! And get in his head.
Every time,
And the whole, like, and every time he missed, I'd be like, shit, here we go again.
Ouch.
It's gonna be an easy day for me. Just
every
really start.
time in the
Yeah, I'll go
morning,
take it. It's real.
especially when I get woken up at 4 a.m.
I apologize profusely for that.
Well, huh?
Not
I was trying to walk onto the.
Yeah, that was.
Yes, I did. I said, dude, I'm sorry. You walked away.
Good, good, you did it. You did it. You did it. You did it. Okay, no, you know, let's get into this. I'm glad. Let's get into this. Yo, you woke him at 4 a.m. and then again at 5 a.m. You turned on your
Wait, you didn't even go back to your bed after that?
You didn't wake me up at 4 a.m.
You didn't even
No,
go back to
no,
your
you
bed?
suck.
Yes, that
Wait,
was
wait, wait.
I didn't have that. I didn't have that.
No. His alarm went off at 4.
Yeah.
And then he didn't go to his room.
Yeah.
He stayed on
We
the
didn't go
couch.
to-
And then he went off again at 5.
I was
That's
supposed
I keep doing that.
You
Yeah.
didn't say sorry. I said, oh, that's on me.
And that's when you
I
got
did like
like
10 minutes straight from
That's
wrong.
when you got
I'm like, I'm sweating
Said,
because
oh, that's on me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
7 hours, but like most of
That's
the
not
time.
fault.
No, then I
Oh,
apologize.
that's on me.
Then I
No, I'm
apologize.
cool. I'm
That
just
was on
saying-
me too.
I'm just saying, I always get blamed. So in that moment, I would have been
But like,
bro,
Lane
what
took
you
up.
doing? What do you bet?
When I was in
Say a word.
college, my campus
I
match.
just,
Then
I
None of us
just
were
took him, I
that
was
good.
like,
We were all really
turn off
bad.
his phone, now what's that?
Back out. So guys just playing rugby, it's bad.
Then
If I was
I
going by
apologize.
myself,
Huh?
I'd play with guys who like.
Yeah,
No,
T-Bone.
No, I apologize earlier. You said, oh no, it's not
I
happening at
can
all.
shoot. I can just like.
T-Bone.
I can only shoot like 2. I just
Work is not-
That and Debo, you don't know.
so much fun. So much
I didn't
fun.
see you till the.
Huh?
I didn't see you.
Hi.
Danny's back.
No, it's fine. I'm just saying.
I didn't take it in the morning because I thought you were.
It's probably gonna be we'll get started in 1 minute. 1 minute.
I'm
Wait,
afraid.
you still play pickup? You sound like a.
No, I said I'm afraid of you. Nothing
We
about
do
you.
it. We do a spring retreat with all the other
I'm
kids.
saying your posture is different than what I'm
We
used
do
to.
a intramural like a.
Hey, bro, how you doing?
How's it going? What's going on here?
This is a group called Alpha Omega. We're a Christian group here.
Oh, interesting. I thought University was doing prayer here.
Yeah, there was a weird mix-up. We talked to the front desk. I don't know what her name was. Woman with like a, she had like a beanie
I
on.
think they're in the meeting the room all the way down.
Yeah.
They're in the meeting all the way down.
Good luck.
Thanks much. I'll check there. Thank you.
Don't stop all on account of that. No, we do this tournament mixed co-ed, but like Boston dominates everything.
Hi,
So if we had you, we had Christian can play. Christian's
You the
nice.
bouncer or something?
Christian's not cute.
Give me your ID.
Oh, you're the
Like,
bouncer?
hey, making
If we play indoor, he'll play.
Hi, Dad.
Outdoor,
Good to see
the
you.
problem is the dorm was outdoors last year and it had just rained.
Oh, shoot.
I don't like when it's raining outside. My
That's no good.
shoes
That's no good.
slippery. Someone
Can't be
gets
doing
like
Oh, it's a bad
It's a mess.
security.
So I'm like,
No.
we didn't really play.
indoors is better.
I don't know if I can play.
It's more competitive when you're indoors.
But with Charlie's got size. They can play a little bit.
Somebody got to have like a mental break pass. Like, I'm ready to attack.
I think we should practice and like actually make a run at the tournament. We have Fidelia. We have Fidelia and we have Ben and Christian. We have athletes. Finally.
You ain't no athlete.
I cooked them though. It was like, oh, I didn't play T1 or anything. Like, no way plays T1. All right, y'all, we should get going. Do what you must here in the next 60 seconds. Whatever you must do, and then we'll get it cooking. This is nice. This is a little bit more full than last week. People are getting on it. You figuring it out? Are you? I'm gonna close the door. I should keep it open. I was just reading the scroll of Isaiah, and I don't know what it means. Can someone help me out? All right, this one's for Allie's here. All right, this one's for Piper because she's watching. Everybody say hi to Piper.
Piper!
That's for the future. That's for. Hey, Drew's here too. Let's go. Hi, Drew. Hey. Sorry, you don't need two of those. All right, y'all. Shall we do the thing? Did we do the best? Who here had the best day? You can't just be volunteering people like that. That's if there's one corporate sin in our ministry, it's that we all volunteer each other constantly. Yeah.
So last Tuesday night teaching, we didn't do what did we learn?
Yeah.
That was a little sad. I'm not gonna lie.
I didn't know if we had learned.
Okay.
I want you guys to know I've been in the lab.
Okay.
I'm cooking up a new jingle.
Oh.
It's not ready.
excited.
It's not ready, but next week.
We didn't finish the first one.
What do you mean?
We couldn't get a consistent rhythm going.
Learn today.
That was way different than
That's
the one last semester.
It's what did we learn today?
Yeah, but that was
It's
different than the
always
one you
been
just did.
from the jump. It's always been that.
No, but the words are the same, but the melody's all different every week.
I'm pretty sure. I don't think so. I'm pretty sure.
Like a beat without a melody.
So that's basically all we did last week was just work on the jingle. No, we talked about a bunch of stuff last week. Can somebody, whoever had the best day, really quick, who was it? Who had like a really great day? Charlie, can you pray for us, and then we'll get it going.
Yeah. God, thank you for this day, Father. We're just so grateful to be at a place where we can gather together, in person at a campus and just talk about the Bible, talk about your word, have other Christian groups doing the exact same thing, Father. It's a privilege to be able to do this, to have the Bible, to have your spirit, to have this community, Father. We just pray that we can value it, Father, that you can speak through Josh, allow this lesson to be empowering and inspiring, and we can all just get a lot out of today, both information-wise, but more so relationally, and be prepared to kind of go to our campuses and make big impacts by the way we choose to live, Father. We love you. It's in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
And we're back, folks.
I'm good.
So let's just get right into it. Tonight teaching. If you've done it before, you know what it is. I think it's Sarah's first one, but I don't know if it's anybody else's first one.
Me.
No, you've been here. Get out of here. Yeah, it's Esther's first too. Shoot. You don't have to do hands, really. I'm going to ask a lot of questions. You can just shout it out. This isn't class. It feels a little bit like class, and it looks a little bit like class, but it's not. I don't know how else to put it. Last time we were together, we started off our series, The Heart of the Kingdom. We're digging through the Sermon on the Mount. That's all we're doing. And last week, we broke our personal record. We got through 3 whole verses of the Kingdom. Thank you. Hold your applause. This week and last week, we're talking about the Beatitudes. And what we're going to do week in and week out is go through Jesus's vision of what the kingdom is. He has this word kingdom that he's using all the time. And it's not enough to just like hypothesize about it and be like, someday things are going to be really great when God does his thing. Jesus is actually talking about the way that life is supposed to be right now and the kinds of people who live in that state of reality right now. And that's what we're called to do. We can actually live out everything that's in here in some form or fashion in the right now times, not just like someday when we all fly away or whatever. Here is what the Sermon on the Mount is. Like we talked about last week, it is a scandalous, shocking reimagining of who gets in to God's good graces. Who are the good guys, who are the bad guys? It's not who you think they are. Who gets into heaven, who's not into heaven. It's not who you expect. It's also immensely practical directions for a new way of being human. So here's what a good believer, a good God follower looked like pre-Jesus. And Jesus says, actually, it's not a lot of those things. Or what you thought it was, it's something much greater and more exciting and more practical. So you're going to have to rearrange your priorities, your habits, and your relationships in order to live in God's reality. The last thing it is a visionary illustration of what heaven will be like now. Like I just said. Encourage you guys, buy, if you want them extra credit points, them big brownie points, buy The Divine Conspiracy. It's very, very good. Dallas Willard, one of the most important Christian writers, or any kind of writer, of the last 50, 100 years. Dude is on one throughout this. Everything that I am going to teach, or Charlie's going to teach for the next few weeks, is from this book. Like, we're straight up stealing it. Don't worry. Like, we're not coming up with this stuff on our own. Better men than us came up with it before we did. This is what we talked about last week. Last week, this is all that we read. We read, now when Jesus saw the crowds, he went up on a mountain. Oh, we read a bit of chapter 4. My apologies. Now when Jesus saw the crowds, he went up on a mountainside and sat down. His disciples came to him and he began to teach them. He said, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Now we're going to practice our retention rate. Who's ready? What does this mean? Anybody who was here last week. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Hopefully you remember. Or you watched the YouTube. Dang, Lucas wasn't even here and he's about to shout it. Let's hear it.
I think God made it a point that those who are in the darkest place on earth can be saved, and they are destined to find heaven. You know, God said that it is very hard for the rich to find heaven, right? Even though they have everything, right? So it's those without anything, without even spirit, that can be saved.
Very nice. Yeah. That unexpected people, poor in spirit people have a chance at heaven. I saw Rob and then Shanti.
Okay, sorry.
It's all good.
You talked about spiritual zeros and how they can experience God's goodness.
Yes.
Like kind of when they give up their kind of like intents and wants and experience Jesus's kingdom.
Yeah. The least spiritual person you've ever met has a chance to experience Jesus. What? That's crazy. Shanti, you're our last one. What do you think?
It all gave the answer.
It's all good.
But it's mostly
Rob and Lucas
like,
were cooking.
It's mostly, well, I said last week that it's mostly like people who willing to go to God, but who aren't willing to go to God, but still like have like a momentum, like they want to know God.
Yeah, they have a desire for God, but maybe they haven't experienced him for some reason, or they don't think they've experienced him. This is the kind of people we're talking about. Like to Rob's language, even the spiritual zeros, the people who have never read the Bible in their life, they couldn't tell you where a church was, they haven't been confirmed or baptized, they haven't done any of this stuff, they're not spiritual, can experience God's goodness if and when they interact with the kingdom. They're blessed. They're in a favorable status in God's eyes, but only if they're interacting with the kingdom. Now, the thinking of that day was if you're poor in spirit, if you don't worship at the temple, if you're not a good Jew, so to speak, you can't experience God's goodness. And that's why you sin. And so that's why you fail at life and your crops die and you're poor and you're sick because God's not with you. And so the assumption was if you have a hard life or a bad life, you must just be a bad person. And we think that's pretty reductive, right? We know that bad people have very favorable lives and very good people have some not so favorable lives. But there's times even when we think that too. We see somebody who's poor, who's addicted, who's homeless, who has something really serious going on in their life, and we're like, how did they mess up? What's the real story here? We can be just as judgmental as the people back then. So it's important to understand the Beatitudes are not instructions. Jesus is not telling you to be poor in spirit. It's not a good thing to not be spiritual. These aren't qualifications. He isn't saying that you can't enter the kingdom of heaven unless you're meek or unless you hunger and thirst for righteousness. Instead, Jesus is crushing the idea that these things disqualify you from a relationship. Think of, again, we did this last week. Think of all the people who you're like, that person will never become a Christian. There's no way that person's ever going to want to know Jesus. Well, those things don't disqualify a person from a relationship with Jesus. No one's out forever. People can choose to walk away from their faith or walk away from a relationship with God, but no one's disqualified. So that's what we're going to kind of dig into for the rest of our time in the Beatitudes. We're going to finish out the Beatitudes today. So Matthew 5, you know what to do. Matthew 5, and we're going to start with a question that I want you to ponder. And if you have an answer for it, great. If not, that's all right.
Matthew 5?
Matthew 5, verse 1. Question for you to think about. Why does God choose to create good outcomes from bad situations? Not all the awful stuff that happens in the world. And then God does something miraculous and good through it. There's a genocide in a country. Matthew 5, verse 1. There's a genocide in a country, and it's horrible. It's horrific. It's like the worst possible thing. But then all these incredible stories come out of it. Okay? It's like actually God worked here and here and here. Think about the Holocaust, one of the worst tragedies in human history. But think about all the incredible stories that have come out of that period. Now, those aren't good things. They will never be good things, but God still works through them anyways. Why? Why do you think that is? Yeah.
I mean, I feel like a lot of the times, God definitely wants to show himself through many different ways. And like with the really horrible places, a lot of people are like, oh, God didn't do this. He was like, I'm watching over you the entire time. Like I'm doing these things. And he's like, I still want to be a part of these things, and showing that when there's not so great situations happening.
That's really good. That God's saying, I'm not absent from this. I can still work through even the worst thing you can imagine. That's very good. Any other thoughts?
When people are in those low spots, those bad spots, they're going to be more primed to look for something.
Ooh. People in hard times tend to seek an answer, help, hope. Absolutely true.
I was saying, you know how he made a list about he wants everyone to know that that he'll be there, because sometimes people tend to think God has an expectation, like a big expectation of people. So maybe he just he wants to tell them that no matter what, he's gonna be there to help them guide.
Yeah, we tend to have an expectation of who God is and how he works. God's supposed to be this way. Then God's like, but actually, I'm kind of this way too. It's powerful. The last one.
I think is to change the mindset of a person who's going through that bad situation. Because sometimes when you're in a good situation, when God is calling, you don't pay attention. You don't want to know. You don't even care.
Absolutely.
So he waits until you get into the bad situation to first reach out to you to change your mind. And then you have to come back to him.
How many of you guys got really, really good grades in high school, but you didn't really try? Yeah, that's why you're in college right now. And then you got to college, and you're like, oh crap. wait a second, this is not as easy as I thought it was. You don't seek help when you're good at stuff, right? Like, if you're a good student, you get straight A's without studying or trying or doing half your homework, you're like, this is easy, school's easy for me. But then you face a real test and you're like, immediately humbled. Similar to the worst tragedies in our lives, right? I didn't think I needed help with grief, for instance, how to grieve, until I experienced big losses. And then I learned, oh, actually, I need a lot more help than I think I do. I thought I'd be a pretty good husband and dad until I actually tried it. And I was like, oh, uh-oh. I need a little bit of help here. I'll have to get a lot of help. God chooses to create good outcomes from bad situations for a number of reasons. And that's sort of what's going on in the Beatitudes. So back Matthew 5, we're actually going to start in verse 3. This is the list of the spiritual have-nots. This is good stuff. We're going to break this down in detail in a minute, but we're going to look at the overarching thing that Jesus is doing first. He said, Jesus, verse 3, Blessed are the poor in spirit, the spiritual zeros, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. And blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Again, he's talking about all the spiritual zeros, the have-nots, all the people you would never expect to see at God's party. He says, these are the people that are in God's favor, who are receiving some kind of gift or reward or blessing from God in real time. We're going to talk about what each of these groups are. There might be some confusion about who these people are and what they're receiving, but it's important to look at the big picture of what Jesus is saying here. Jesus is explaining how kingdom actually works. I feel like, what's the kingdom? How does the kingdom work? I'm about to just blow it all wide open right here. It's going to change your whole life. Here's how the kingdom works. You and I have a preconceived idea about what good and bad are. Well, that's a bad situation. I broke my leg. It's a bad situation. There's no way that's good. Or I just got engaged. Good situation. God's clearly with me. I just got a great job. God is with me. I just lost my great job. God is not with me. Kylie's here. God is with me. Kylie brought a burrito just for herself. God isn't with me. Like, we have preconceived notions of what is good and what is bad. What God does perpetually throughout human history is flip that idea on its head. He said, you thought this was bad. As it turns out, it might not be that bad. Remember when you broke your leg and that was horrible? Well, we went to war with Canada the next week and you weren't fit for military service because of your broken leg. So now you're not on the front lines getting shot at. Maybe that wasn't so bad. Kylie brought a burrito just for herself. God is cursing me because I didn't get a burrito. That burrito gave Kylie food poisoning. Maybe I'm not so. Maybe God is blessing me. And not, like, I hope that doesn't happen. I hope it's delicious, right? Maybe the bad thing isn't so bad. Is poverty, like not having enough money to survive, is that a bad thing?
Yep.
Absolutely. Like, that's unequivocally a bad thing to have happen to you. And yet God works with impoverished people and blesses impoverished people in unexpected ways. That's what Jesus is saying here. Is it a good thing to be in the middle of a conflict and both sides are mad at you because you won't pick a side? Yeah, that's bad. That's never a good thing. I'm not doing trick questions here today. But maybe it's not so bad. Maybe there's a hidden reward on the other side. So what Jesus is doing in the Beatitudes and what kingdom is revealing good, godly things in unlikely, bad situations. And when that happens, when that bad thing actually turns out to be a good thing, now I have a new expectation. Well, I thought it was really, really bad to be in conflict. I thought conflict was a bad thing. But then God did a good thing through my conflict. So now the next time I'm in conflict, I think, maybe God will do another good thing. God is rearranging my ideas of good and bad, or spiritual and unspiritual, righteous and unrighteous, holy and sinful. He's rearranging my ideas of these things at all times. Think about the people that Jesus hung out with and blessed. He hung out with sick people, people who are physically disabled, demon-possessed, people who were labeled publicly as sinners. You know how bad of a sinner you have to be for the entire town to know that you're a sinful person? You gotta be like a really turbo sinner. You hang out with poor people, foreign people, pagans, These were the people that Jesus chose to hang out with, because he says, even though you think that God isn't with these people, he might actually be with these people. You know how the Romans are the worst people who ever lived? I'm going to go bless a Roman centurion for his faith. What? That's not supposed to happen. You know how this guy is clearly a sinful person because he can't walk? Actually, I'm going to bless him and heal him so you can see that God can work even in that guy's life. Yeah.
I think it was like said, for this person that was born not able to walk, is it the sin of his parents or is it the sin of himself?
Mhm.
So it's like there is no sin.
Nope. Completely challenges their preconceived notion. Well, bad people, sinful people get punished by God. But what if this isn't a punishment at all? What if it's an opportunity for the will of God to be done in this person's life? Whoa, curveball. I appreciate you guys staying focused through that. That was tricky. This is how the kingdom actually works. Now, we'd love to be like, the kingdom looks like a youth conference with 5,000 young people worshiping God from the rafters and a sick guitar solo. Maybe. Sure. Yeah, that's supposed to be a pretty good thing. I think it actually is a pretty good thing when a bunch of people get together and sing praises to God. But that's not the only place. And if I think that the only place that God is working is in my church on a Sunday morning, I'm missing out on the vast majority of what kingdom actually is. So the great sin of Western Christianity is that we're missing out. The kingdom and Jesus is happening all over the place, and that we're the ones missing out, not the sinners. This is a radical inversion of what is supposed to be happening. See, Jesus enters all these situations, the demon possession, the sinners, all that stuff, because that's not where God is supposed to be. Because that's not how God is supposed to work. Because that's not how life is supposed to be. But all my shoulds and my supposed tos are limiting me. So he brings a new result, this thing called kingdom. Second question, and I want you guys to really, really dig deep and try to answer this one. What are our preconceived ideas about where kingdom is and isn't? Let's start with the easy one. Where are places where you go, yep, that's kingdom, that's where God is working, that's heaven on earth? Church is a great place where God is working. Absolutely. I'm not saying that's not where God is working.
God-centered relationships.
God-centered relationships, healthy relationships. Absolutely.
Alone in your room.
Where?
Alone in your room.
Sometimes, and sometimes not so much.
Yeah.
But yes, sometimes time alone with God is powerful kingdom time. How about camp? If you've ever been to like a really good youth camp or a campus retreat or like a really good date. Like, man, this is the kingdom of heaven come down to earth right here.
Amen.
Yep.
Allie and I went to Florida without Miles, and I was like, I'm pretty sure this is heaven right here. Like, I get to sleep in, which for us was like 7 a.m., unfortunately, because our bodies have been trained to get up for a boy. But like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we know when life is good. I'll give you another one. In July, I went to Berlin. Berlin has a troubled history.
CMC.
CMC is a place, right? Conferences. Went to Berlin. Got to hang out with my best friends, with Allie and our son and their 2 boys for like a week. And it was like heaven on earth. We'd go to the zoo and then put our kids down for a nap and have like a nice glass of wine, and the sun's setting in Berlin. And I'm like, this is perfect. This is heaven. So when you experience those things, I'm not saying those things aren't kingdom. Now let's do the hard one. Where are some places where you're like, I don't think God is working there? The club. You can't find me at the club. Bottles full of bug.
My climate science class.
Your climate science class. Absolutely. Where else? Where is God just clearly like, I've been abandoned by the Lord here? How about Gaza? How about communist China at certain periods of unrest and genocide?
Hell.
Politics, any place that involves politics.
Sorry, that
Hell.
was
I think there's hell on earth that we see where we experience, and we go, probably not there. There's a place in Philadelphia. Oh gosh, what's the name of the street? I can't remember the name of the street, but it's like, see, like the center of fentanyl in the US right now. You can walk down this like 6-block stretch and people are like actively dying in real time in front of you. like limbs are rotting off because
Oh.
people are reusing needles. It's hell on earth. It's terrifying. You're like, God can't possibly be working here. There's no way. But every day someone gets off those streets. Every day a few Palestinian refugees get out. They have a story to tell. Every once in a while you learn something in that climate science class, right? What Jesus is saying is in the worst of the worst, God is still working and kingdom is still happening. So go explore those places and find God there. This is challenging for us. Why is this, and this isn't a trick question, why is it so hard for us to do hard things?
They're hard.
Because they're hard. You know what's way easier? Going to church on Sunday, going to Tuesday night teaching, get my spiritual pat on the back, having Devo, doing men's group 9 a.m., sharing my insights about the Lord. It's easy. This isn't hard. If you think that this is hard in Christianity, go serve the poor. Go work with people in rehab. Go be a teen minister. Like it gets tougher than this. This is the easy part. This is the fun part for me, at least. Hopefully for you guys too. Like this isn't very fun for me. All right, see you in a few weeks. This is the easy part. But in the hard part, God is working as well. So we're going to go back to the scripture really quick, and we're going to play a little game. This game is, what in the world is going on here? And I'm going to ask you 2 questions for each of these. First question is, who are these people? We need to describe who these groups of people are. And then the second question is, what is God doing for them? Because it's easy to say something like, blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. But like, who are the mourners? Like, let's try it really quick. Who are the mourners, the people who are in mourning in today's world?
Maybe, well, mourning can come in different forms,
Sure.
but probably what maybe kids who are like children or like adolescents who are abandoned.
People who've been abandoned, right? Whether in relationship or otherwise. Yeah.
The parents of Sandy Hook.
Parents of Sandy Hook. Great example. People who have lost kids at a young age. I don't want to imagine.
Losing anything.
People who have lost anything. Actually, Allie's done a lot of work around grief recovery, and it's really powerful stuff. She helped me understand that all change is a type of loss. And all loss needs to be grieved and mourned in some way. And so to go any change, even things that are good, like having my son was one of the best things that ever happened to me in my life, but it was a change. And I lost some freedom. You know, there's things I had to mourn and grieve, even with it. That sounds weird, right? Esther's like, you're an awful dad. No, I'm a really good dad. I'm trying my best. But everybody mourns in some way. People who have lost loved ones. People who have been business failures. Now they've been left penniless. People who got dumped or about to get dumped this weekend. Real talk. Real talk. People who are rejected. People who aren't going to get dumped because they don't have anyone in the first place. And they really, really want that. They're mourning the fact that they haven't gotten the relationship or the success or the achievement that they're so desperate for. These are the mourners. Jesus says the mourners, people who mourn, will be comforted. So what does comfort look? This is like highly practical stuff because we're going to have to understand it for ourselves and do it for other people. What does it look like to comfort a mourning person? Someone who's grieving. Yeah.
Being there with them and trying to be in their shoes and just maybe sometimes just give them a hug. They don't want you to lecture them.
Right? Not a lecture, but sometimes it's just being present and available. That's huge. Yeah.
Just to listen.
Listening.
Empathy.
Empathy. Sympathy. Not sympathy. Empathy.
Not sympathy.
Apparently. There's a whole thing around it.
They're different somehow.
How the different.
Jesus says for the people who are losing something or someone or never got it in the first place, they will receive those things. God shows up in that place. When you have nothing else to rely on, you see the kingdom in Jesus, you learn to live in it, you find comfort, and your tears turn into laughter. And in fact, you're better off now than you were before you had the loss. It says that's the reality of kingdom. This very good thing comes out of a very bad situation. You guys are doing great. This is easy, right? Isn't Jesus so easy? Second one, blessed are the meek. Who are the meek? What would it look like to be meek?
Oh, that's what I was wondering.
Right? Yeah, it's a weird one. It's not a word we use anymore.
I think we said it last time. It's people that have like pushed things over, like they don't react or like, right?
They get pushed over maybe?
Yes, but they don't say anything.
Yeah, they don't fight for their own rights. Yeah, Rob.
Timid.
They're timid.
Mm.
They can't speak up for themselves.
Bottom of the barrel at work.
Bottom of the barrel at work. Everyone shoves all the grunt work onto them. It's kind of Charlie work. It's kind of what the staff looks like right now. It's like, yeah, Charlie can do it.
Like taking wrongdoings and then like trying to fight for it, right?
No, it's people who don't even fight. They get wronged and they're like, fine, okay. They don't speak up for themselves. They don't fight for themselves. They're unassertive. They're easily intimidated. They're shy. Someone pours hot soup on them and then they apologize. They assume that they're at fault when things go wrong. They constantly apologize for nothing. They're constantly saying sorry, but they didn't do anything wrong in the first place. And they get beaten down into a pulp and into a rage. They burn inside. So what does it look like to inherit the earth? These people, the timid, the shy, they get to inherit the earth. What does that mean?
They'll inherit something much larger.
Ooh. They'll inherit something much larger. Can you speak on that? Can you add to that at all?
Like when he said, "Blessed are the meek," I think those are the people that won't fight for worldly things, like might be through money or status, but they will inherit something what God created, basically. So His blessing, His kingdom.
They're receiving something from God rather than something that they tried to grasp at for themselves.
Right.
Interesting. Any other thoughts on that? What it looks like to inherit the earth? It's a pretty good answer. Last one, yeah.
I mean, possibly like knowing where your place is in a sense, like knowing that you aren't doing these things, like you aren't in the wrong or anything like that. You like know the world and know your place.
Yeah, there's like a satisfaction that comes with like, no, but I did things the right way. Absolutely. Right? That like, even though I'm not going to try to provide for myself, when a meek person enters kingdom and experiences God's reality, all of their needs are met by God. All things that they really need. The thing that they're going to receive from God is better than the thing they would have gotten for themselves if they were elbowing people and climbing the corporate ladder and trying to get their way. Their meekness is not weakness. Didn't mean for that to rhyme.
Ooh.
So I apologize.
What up, Dr. Seuss?
You know that that's not my flavor. I'm not Mr. Alliteration.
You read Elliot poem today?
Not today.
Are you in a poetry mood?
Every other day.
Come on.
Next one. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. That's a weird one. What's that?
For me, those are the martyrs who died for their faith.
Ooh.
We hear that a lot in people in Iran and across the world where there's Christians who are still persecuted. And well, it doesn't get much coverage, but those are I forget what part of the Bible was, but it was talking about how those who are persecuted for their faith will have a place in heaven.
Yeah. These people who are in a wrong situation. They're trying to do what's right. Absolutely.
I think of like hunger and thirst is like essential things. So like people that like need it, like it's like essential to their life.
You're getting really close. You're getting really freaking close. This is very good. Yes.
People who don't have it, like if you're hungry and thirsty, you don't have the food and water. So you're like, you might know you need it. Typically, you know you need it, but you don't have it yet. You don't really know where to get it sometimes.
Are there people in this world who know what is right and just, and they're not receiving justice? There's a lot of people like that who are burning and hungering because they're like, this is not fair. This is not right treatment. And they're hungering and they're thirsting for it. And what Jesus says is those people will get their fill. They will be filled with the thing that they are hungering and thirsting for. These are the people who are burning for things to be made right, who cringe at injustice or even their own sin. Think about the things that are really, really, really wrong in this world. Racism, sexism, genocide, murder, the list goes on. People who are hungering for righteousness will get their fill. Jesus says that they can create a future out of a dark past. That in kingdom, not on their own, but in kingdom, God restores their souls with goodness and righteousness. In the long game, to quote Dr. King, Black History Month, come on, the long arc of the universe, moral arc of the universe bends upward. Come on. You get your justice, baby. Let's go. Like in all situations, right? The woman who gets passed over 15 times for the job that she is clearly qualified for and deserves because her boss is misogynistic. For the person of color in the 60s who was mistreated over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Justice is coming. It has come in kingdom. In God's reality, justice is served. Next one. Blessed are the merciful, for they'll be shown mercy. Who are the merciful?
I would think someone who can forgive.
Someone who can forgive. I like this. I like this very much. Who else is merciful? Maybe I'll put it this way. Why would being merciful be a bad thing? Everything else on this list is kind of like a bad condition to be in. You're in a bad way if you're poor in spirit or mourning. What's so bad about being merciful?
Human authority. Humans like authority, like people who have power, sometimes they overly use it and they don't think about the person for like, so for example, in the Bible, a woman comes to a judge for a case, right? The judge doesn't give her mercy
So
because he perceives her as this poor lady. She's just nagging. She's just here. So
she's annoyed by her.
So he doesn't think to hear a case and in turn to give her mercy, show her mercy. I think that's a good example.
Fantastic connection, right? This happens in his world, in Jesus' world, and it happens in our world all the time. Merciful people get beat up on. If you think about the authority figures in our world right now, are they known for their mercy?
No.
For their forgiveness? Not particularly. It doesn't matter which side of the alley you're on. Mercifulness, forgiveness is not like a cultural value. Merciful people, guess what happens to the merciful people? They get despised by people who are shrewd and decisive, know how to get things done, right? They get taken advantage of by such people. And he says, if you're being taken advantage of, if you're a merciful person who's trying to be forgiving, but then you're not receiving forgiveness, well, under heaven's goodness, you will find mercy that meets your needs better than anything you would have tried to get for yourself. That you could have been shrewd and decisive and have your way and pushy and get yours, but by being merciful, you receive something that you never could have received by doing it your own way. Powerful stuff. This is my favorite one. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. This isn't what you think it is. Blessed are the people who don't look at porn. Absolutely, that is a blessing. But like, there's something else when he's saying pure in heart. I just want to let's start and see if we get there. What does it mean to be pure in heart? I know I scared you off, but yeah.
Good intention.
Good intentions, sure.
Not to be hateful.
Not hateful. This is the best one, guys. It's so freaking good. Okay.
I'm thinking like, I don't know, when I see someone who's pure in heart, it's like they miss the reality that's really going on. So some sense of like overly innocent. That's like totally off track from what everyone else said, but who knows?
I don't think it's a bad thing, but I don't think it's what Jesus is going for here.
Yeah.
Honest.
Honest, sure.
Not selfish or something.
Not self-centered. Okay, so they have character. Why? Why are they such a good person? What are they hoping for?
Rewards.
Nope. They're too good of a person to want a reward for it. Peace, you're getting closer.
God. No.
Have you ever watched like some, maybe it's basketball, maybe it's a movie, maybe it's whatever, and you're like, this is the pinnacle of what this can be. Like I watched the Spurs in 2013 and 14, and I was like, this is the pinnacle of what basketball can be. This is the beautiful game. This is art. This is cinema to me, right? Now imagine somebody who has seen how, or can imagine how good the world is supposed to be, and then the world is constantly not that good. These are the people who are perpetually dissatisfied. They're perfectionists by their own definition. Nothing's ever good enough. They're pure in heart. They know that we're destined and designed for something better than the world that we live in. They're overly critical, and they're kind of miserable because they seek something that only God can provide. Only God is perfect. And so anything in my life that I'm trying to find perfection in is going to make me dissatisfied in the long run. I'm pure in heart, but I'm not finding purity. Nothing's ever good enough. Nothing's ever pure enough or righteous enough or holy enough. You go and you're like, this is the conference, this is the retreat that's going to change everything. And then you go and you're like, it wasn't what I was hoping for. We're doing a new song for worship and we're singing and we're trying. It's beautiful, but you're like, but it's not scratching that itch for me. So what would it mean to see God? If this is your reality, that nothing's ever quite good enough because it's not God, imagine how good it is to see God. Finally, after all that waiting and itching and dissatisfaction, in kingdom, they find it. They realize that God is the only thing that is good enough to satisfy them, and they find satisfaction for their souls. They can finally be at rest. Come on. Dallas Willard's incredible. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. If nothing is ever good enough, one thing is, and you'll get it, if you choose kingdom, if you choose God's way of doing everything, God's reality. 2 more here. We're doing really, really good. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Who are the peacemakers?
Those that don't go around gossiping.
No gossip.
And put in disputes between 2 brothers or 2 sisters.
They don't create conflict. Certainly not. That's a good thing.
They don't fan the flames of conflict.
When there is conflict, they're not promoting it, and they're not trying to make it worse.
But like, they don't live in anger?
They don't live in anger.
You try to fix relationships.
Try to fix relationships, sure.
They don't just stand there when there's trouble. They try to do something.
Do something about it. They're not just peacekeepers. Peacekeepers are people who avoid conflict. Peacemakers are people who actively try to repair conflict, right? Why would that be a bad thing? It's a good thing to repair conflict, right? When would that be a bad thing to be?
Nobody wants to get entangled with drama.
Philly's cooking tonight. Yeah, no one wants to be at the center of that. And in fact, how many of us have been at the center of 2 friends arguing, and now they're both mad at you, even though you didn't cause the drama, because they're like, why aren't you taking my side? Chloe's like, speak to my heart. This is incredible. It happens to be a peacemaker and be like, you 2 should really make up. And now they're both mad at me. And it's like, no, I'm trying to help. Like, oh, fine, I'll get out of this. But blessed are the peacemakers. God is blessing the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. When nobody claims you, when nobody's on your side, when everybody's mad at you, this is where it happens, guys. In kingdom, they're finally recognized as repairing God's family, because God is kind even to those in the wrong. God claims me. God identifies with me. I get called God's child because I'm somebody who's trying to repair the family of God. That's a blessing. Last one. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness. These are the people who stand up for what's right, people whose lives are ruined or even ended, to Lucas's point, because they won't comply with what's wrong. There are going to be situations in your life, probably in the near future, where it's going to be much easier to do the wrong thing and to turn your eye when something wrong is happening, when something unjust and unfair is happening. Blessed are you when you get persecuted because you won't stand for it and you won't go with it. And I'm sorry, I don't care if the entire rest of the class is going to cheat on this exam. I can't do it. I'm sorry. It's not me. Blessed are you when everybody boos you. You're like, wasn't there homework? When everybody boos you or boots you or jails you or beats you or kills you because you chose to do the right thing. Because theirs is the kingdom of heaven. People who get persecuted because of righteousness, they are protected in the kingdom. The rest of the world wants to kill you. In God's reality, you are safe to live a blessed life. You have an unshakable security, even though the rest of the world's an insecure place. This is powerful stuff. All the places that you don't want to be, hunger and thirsting for righteousness, dissatisfied, taken advantage of, on nobody's side, trying to make the peace, persecuted, jailed, punished. This is where God is showing up in your life. Actively, consistently. This is powerful stuff. To recap, very quickly. You can take a picture of this, or you can just like, if you missed a note on any of these, I just want to make sure that we didn't skip anything. Here are the mourners. The mourners are people with nothing else to rely on, but they find comfort in Jesus. The meek can't fend for themselves. They can't take care of themselves, but God gives them everything they need. People who hunger and thirst for righteousness, and they're burning for things to be made right, God takes care of them. The merciful are shown God's provision, and that God's provision is better than anything they could have grasped at for themselves. The pure in heart, the perfectionists, God is the one that's finally good enough for them. The peacemakers, when nobody else claims them and they get stuck in the middle, God claims them. When you're persecuted, when you're beaten and jailed and killed for your faith, for doing the right thing, those who stand up for what's right will not be abandoned or mistreated in God's reality. And that's how Jesus starts this dang thing. Come on. This is his opener. He's just clearing his throat. It's going to get way more radical than this. This is the easy stuff. This is the most palatable stuff. And it's only going to get more wacky from here. There's one more group. And Jesus kind of repeats himself. Matthew 5, verse 11. The last of the Beatitudes. Boop. It's interesting. If you really want to do a little study, Jesus compares this to woes, like woe on certain people groups, people who are getting everything they want in this life and are living the rich life and taking advantage of others. He woes them. It's super, super interesting. It happens in Isaiah as well. Verse 11, he says, "Blessed are you, when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me." This is the key difference. Not just for the sake of justice or righteousness, but on behalf of Jesus, rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. This is the last blessing. And it's very pointed. It's incredibly important for this day and age, because the implication that life with Jesus means mistreatment. Doing things Jesus' way means side eyes, means confusion, means sneers and gossip and condemnation and being called a whatever. That's what's going to happen if I do it Jesus' way. There will be haters, and haters are, in fact, going to hate. But why? Why? If I live like Jesus, try to do things Jesus' way, why won't the whole world just love me? Doesn't everybody love Jesus? Jesus is great. Jesus is my homeboy. Why would people be mad at me if I act like Jesus? Go Sarah first.
I mean, people are jealous because they haven't gotten that relationship with him, and some of them have tried and haven't been able to.
Yeah, what makes you so special? I've tried the Christian thing. It didn't do anything for me. It must be fake, right? There's jealousy there potentially.
Like everyone they condemn and hate, you hold up, and it's alarming and scary and new and weird, and also kind of calls them out just by your actions, which they do not like.
You're a hangnail. Why can't I stamp you out? Why are you always around? When somebody really tries, like a bully who like tries to really, really take you out and you just won't fight back, is the most frustrating thing in the universe for the bully. What else? Why is this a bad thing to be? I'm trying to be like Jesus. Why would the world hate me?
People hated him first, and hundreds even cheered on his crucifixion.
Yep. People didn't like him. No students above their master. Luke 6, chapter 40, or verse 40.
It's almost like, because I don't like this person, you don't have to like this person too. It's a mentality. And also, they don't also understand, like, why do you have to follow him? Like,
Right.
well, why do you have to be all perfect, always telling us what to do?
To quote our Boston friends, you think you're better than me? Right? Oh, you're a Christian. You think you're better than me? Right? I've been to the soup kitchen. Right? There's sometimes a little bit of like standoffishness of like, well, I assume because I have an assumption about who Jesus is and who Christians are, you must be blank. If you ever Google it, why are Christians so, and you just leave it blank, it's like judgmental, hypocritical, angry, racist, like the list just goes on. You're like, are we? I feel like we're not, but okay. But Christians do not have a good rep. Some are, shoot. Like many Christians in our country actually are not the thing.
Some do have it, but
it does happen.
Josh, I got why are Christians so happy?
Happy? No way. No way. If it's H, it's like, why are Christians so hateful? Why are Christians so... Are you looking for hypocritical? You got happy? That's funny. Actually, you know what it was? is like 5 years ago, it used to be all the negative ones, and then like Google realized that, and they like
I got weirder than other religious groups.
that's definitely true, right? But like if you talk to people on the street and you're like, what do you think about Christians? Gandhi said it. Gandhi's like, I really, really like your Christ, but I don't like your Christians because they're nothing like your Christ. Pretty good quote.
I'm going against yoga.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's weird Christians who are like, yoga's from the devil. And it's like, I get why people don't like Christians. Yeah, dancing's from the devil, right? Like that's why people don't like Christians.
Don't drink coffee, don't drink tea, don't have a beard.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't ever date, be celibate for the rest of your life, right? Until you get married. Like it's a very strange Christian people, right? It's very, very strange, this Christian life, and it brings questions and it brings persecution. The truth is, as a disciple, as a follower of Jesus, you're either including the losers in your life or you are the loser.
Ouch.
That's the truth. Is that you're either including the have-nots, the spiritual zeros, or you're the spiritual zero. And you've been included. That's a blessed place to be. I know we all kind of go like, oh, burn. But like Jesus says, that's a good thing in his reality. In our reality, it's not good to be any of the things on that list. In Jesus' reality, you are the most blessed. And to be the spiritual zero or to include the spiritual zero is highly offensive, especially to Christians. Like, think about if we were a group that was highly inclusive of immigrants, people in the LGBTQ plus community. If we were highly inclusive to people of other religions, say, hey, come on in. I'd love to have you for dinner. If we live that way, other Christians, frankly, at least in our country, are going to have questions and then maybe comments and then maybe opinions and then maybe backlash. I said this last week. Western Christianity is very, very obsessed about who's not going to heaven. Not super concerned about who is. Very concerned about who's going to hell. They're like, they're going to hell, and they're going to hell, and they're going to hell, and they're going to hell. I don't know why the person was Southern in my mind. I'm sure there's a lot of really good Southern Christians too. But that's where they live. That's where we live at times. And so to do things Jesus' way, to actually live out that is going to bring some commentary. And we need to be ready for it. So if you live in this world, you're going to get some of the worst persecution, but you're also the most blessed. You've been given the gift of an indestructible life, eternal life to the full, and you have a good reputation with the creator of the universe. That's the promise. So every single holy, righteous person before you got persecuted, you're going to be holy and righteous. You're no different, but you're in a good lineage. You're God's family, God's Mount Rushmore, so to speak, of prophets and justice bringers and peacemakers and meek people and mourners and poor in spirit people. You're on the right team. That is what Jesus is saying. So, time to get practical. We're going to spend the rest of our time in small groups answering some questions. Groups of 2, 3, 4, however many people you feel comfortable with. It's one thing to identify the people of the Beatitudes. You know people who are mourning. You know people who are stuck in the middle of a conflict right now, who are trying to be peacemakers. It's one thing to identify them. It's a different thing to identify with them. To go, I'm mourning. I'm meek. I'm trying to be merciful. I'm poor in spirit. That's a very, very different game. So, a couple questions to answer together in small groups the rest of our time together. If you're online, I'm going to end the live stream at that point. You can, I don't know, drink a ginger ale. Pray, journal, watch Chopped. I don't know what you do in your free time. I know what one of you does in your free time. It's watching Chopped and drinking ginger ale.
It's his one.
Yeah. Honestly, maybe I highly recommend it. It's a pretty good way to live. Some jokes I make just for Ali. 3 questions to answer. And if you feel uncomfortable and you're like, I don't know if I'm ready to answer this. I don't know if I have an answer for this. This is a great night to just listen. That's a great move as well. First thing is there any category on that list? Beatitudes, you have it in front of you somewhere. Any category on that list that resonates with you? Oh, I'm that right now. Why? What's going on? That's okay. Let's talk about it. If you can't talk about it here, I don't know where you're going to talk about it. Right? If you're anything on that list, why? What's the situation that puts you in that category? Second question, have you ever felt unblessed in that status? When I've tried to be a person maker, then I got a job with Gucci And I got kicked out. When I tried to be a peacemaker, things went completely wrong for me. I lost all my friends. Now everybody hates me. I hate being a peacemaker. It's a terrible way to live, right? Maybe you feel unblessed. Let's talk about that. And then the last thing, based on Jesus' promises in the Beatitudes, how might God be ready to bless you in that status? You have to use your imagination in that time. What would it look like for me to be blessed in my lowly state? I've been getting stepped on by my boss, and I have to work extra hours, and I can't get the hours that I want. And I'm trying to be like a team player, and I'm just getting beat down. I'm trying to be merciful and meek. It's not working out for me. Well, what would blessing look like? Potentially. And then pray together and end your time. We're done. So if you're like, I have to go, it's 8 p.m. Man, I'm good. Like if you have to go, it's totally good. But I encourage you to stick around, talk about these things, and maybe get something out of it. Ali says, blessed are those who watch Chopped and drink ginger. For theirs is the very large blanket on our couch. I think that's it for us. Break groups 2, 3, 4, whatever you feel like is good. And have a great night, guys.
It's cold.
Have a great night.
Oh, I'm just kidding.
Okay, we can do 3. We can do.
I gotta watch it, man.
Jingles.